The massive crystalline towers of the Council Nexus stretched into the black emptiness of space like frozen lightning. Each tower belonged to one of the 12 alien races that ruled the galaxy. They had been in power for thousands of years, and they believed nothing could challenge them. Inside the central tower, Ambassador Veltar sat at the curved table with his long, scaled fingers drumming against the smooth surface. His red eyes focused on the holographic screen floating in front of him. The image showed a small blue planet called Earth, and the creatures living on it. "Look at this," Veltar said to the other council members. His voice came out as a series of clicks and hisses, but the translation device made it sound like angry whispers. "These humans have developed faster than light travel in just 50 years. 50 years. It took my people 300 years to achieve the same thing." Councillor Mordek, a massive creature covered in thick grey skin, leaned back in his chair. "So what? They are still primitive. They have no real weapons, no shields, no proper army. One of our fleets could destroy their entire planet in a few hours." "That is exactly why we should not destroy them," Veltar replied with what might have been a smile on his reptilian face. "Think about it. They are clever, they work hard, and they create new things quickly. We can use them." The other council members looked interested now. For centuries, they had been looking for new ways to make their empire richer and stronger. The galaxy was vast, but resources were still limited, and managing 12 different species was expensive. "What do you suggest?" asked Councillor Zixere, her tentacles waving slowly as she spoke. "We make them work for us," Veltar explained. "We take their best technology, their smartest people, their most valuable resources. We let them think they are still free, but everything they make belongs to us. They become our employees." The council voted quickly. It was unanimous. 3 months later, the first council ships appeared in Earth's solar system. They were massive vessels, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. The ships moved slowly toward Lunar Colony, humanity's first settlement on the moon. Commander Jihu Kim stood at the observation deck of the Lunar Colony Command Center, watching the alien ships approach. He was a tall man with short black hair and calm eyes, but his hands were shaking slightly as he held the communication tablet. "Sir," Captain Minho Park said as he entered the room. Minho was younger than Jihu, with a round face and worried expression. "We just received their message. It's not good." Jihu read the message on his tablet. The words were simple, but their meaning was terrible. The Galactic Council was offering humanity a choice that was not really a choice at all. 90% taxation on all our exports, Jihu read aloud. Mandatory surrender of all technological patents. Provision of workers for council projects. He looked up at Minho. "They want everything." Dr. Sohee Lee, the colony's chief scientist, entered the room carrying a data pad. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes behind thick glasses. "Commander, I just finished analyzing their ships. Their technology is incredible. Their smallest vessel has more firepower than our entire space fleet." "What does Earth say?" Minho asked. Sohee activated her data pad, and a holographic message appeared in the air. The president of Earth looked tired and defeated. "All human colonies are ordered to comply with council demands. We have no choice. Resistance would mean the extinction of our species." Jihu stared out at the alien ships. They hung in space like metal mountains, dark and threatening. "They think we are weak," he said quietly. "Aren't we?" Minho asked. "Look at their ships, their weapons. We can't fight them." "Maybe we can't fight them the way they expect us to fight," Jihu replied. "But humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters for thousands of years. We survive because we adapt." Dr. Sohee nodded slowly. "The Council thinks they understand us because they have studied our history and our technology. But they have never lived among us. They don't know what humans are really like when we are pushed too far." The first Council transport arrived the next day. Ambassador Veltar himself came to Lunar Colony to oversee the surrender ceremony. He was even more frightening in person than in the holographic messages. His scales were dark green and black, and his red eyes seemed to look right through people. "Humans of Lunar Colony," he announced through his translator device, "you are now under the protection and guidance of the Galactic Council. You will provide us with your fusion technology, your quantum computers, and your most skilled workers. In return, we will not destroy your pathetic little world." Jihu stepped forward and bowed his head. "We understand, Ambassador. We will comply with all council requirements." Veltar seemed pleased. "Good. You learn quickly. Perhaps your species is not completely worthless after all." As the ceremony ended and the council officials returned to their ships, Minho whispered to Jihu, "How can you stand there and bow to them like that?" Jihu watched the alien ships through the window. "Because they need to believe we are defeated. They need to think we will never fight back. That is our first advantage." "What advantage?" So he asked. "They have all the power." Jihu smiled for the first time in days. "They have power, but they don't understand humans. They think submission means we have given up. They don't realize that sometimes, the best way to win a war is to let your enemy think they have already won." 6 months had passed since the council ships first arrived at human colonies. To any alien observer, humanity appeared to be following orders perfectly. Human workers reported to their assigned jobs every morning. Human scientists shared their research with council overseers. Human engineers built exactly what the aliens requested. But appearances could be deceiving. On Kepler Station, a research facility orbiting a distant star, engineer Donghyun Choi worked late into the night cycle. The station was quiet except for the soft humming of life support systems and the occasional footsteps of council guards patrolling the corridors. Donghyun sat at his workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex technical diagrams. To anyone watching, he appeared to be working on a new communication array for the council fleet. The alien overseers had specifically requested improvements to their long-range communication systems. "Working late again, Donghyun?" Yoon asked as she entered the laboratory. She was carrying 2 cups of coffee and looked just as tired as he did. "The council wants this finished by tomorrow," Donghyun replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. "They are very eager to improve their communications." Yoonji sat down beside him and looked at the technical displays. To any council spy watching through the security cameras, their conversation would seem completely normal. But Yoonji noticed the small changes Donghyun had made to the standard design. "Interesting modifications," she said carefully. "I see you have added some extra subroutines to the core programming." "Yes," Donghyun said with a small smile. "Every system we build for them gets a little gift from humanity." They worked in comfortable silence for several minutes, both understanding what the other meant without saying it directly. Hidden within the complex programming code were small backdoors, tiny vulnerabilities that the council would never notice. When activated at the right time, these hidden programs could cause navigation errors, communication failures, or shield malfunctions. "The council thinks we are just following orders," Yoonji whispered as she helped him install the modified components. "They see us as obedient workers who are grateful for their protection." "Let them think that," Donghyun replied. "Pride makes people blind. The more confident they become, the less carefully they will watch us." Meanwhile, thousands of light-years away on the human colony of New Busan, General Hyunwoo Jang was holding a very different kind of meeting. The room looked like an ordinary storage facility, filled with boxes of medical supplies and farming equipment. But the 20 people gathered there were not discussing supplies or farming. "Report from Kepler Station," Hyunwoo said quietly, reading from a small data pad. "Donghyun and his team have successfully installed backdoors in 17 council communication arrays. They estimate they can access the entire council communication network within 3 months. A woman raised her hand. "What about weapons?" "The council has superior firepower." "Superior firepower only matters if they can use it effectively," Hyunwoo replied. "My daughter Naeong is currently attending the council military academy on their capital world. She is learning their tactics, their weaknesses, their standard battle procedures." The mention of his daughter brought worried murmurs from the group. Sending someone to infiltrate the enemy's military academy was extremely dangerous. "Is she safe?" asked Dr. Kyungmin Park, the colony's medical officer. Heinwa's expression was serious but proud. "Naeong is one of the best students in her class. The council instructors believe she represents the perfect example of a cooperative human. They think she is so grateful for the opportunity to learn from them that she would never betray their trust." "And in reality?" Dr. Park asked. "In reality, she is learning everything about how they fight so we can fight them better. She studies their battle formations, their command structures, their communication protocols. Most importantly, she is teaching them to underestimate what humans can do." The meeting continued for another hour, with reports from human colonies across the galaxy. On each world, the pattern was the same. Humans appeared to be cooperating completely while secretly building a hidden network of resistance. On Mars colony, human workers were secretly modifying the weapons they built for the council, installing hidden shutdown codes that could disable the weapons remotely. On Europa Station, Human technicians were copying Council ship designs and sending the information to hidden human research facilities. On dozens of mining worlds, human laborers were secretly communicating with each other, sharing information and coordinating plans. The most remarkable thing about this growing resistance was how well coordinated it was despite being spread across the entire galaxy. Using quantum communication bursts that lasted only microseconds, human colonies could share information instantly across vast distances. The Council's monitoring systems were not designed to detect such brief transmissions. They see individual colonies, Hyunwoo told his staff as the meeting ended. They count our ships, our weapons, our population on each world. They think in terms of numbers and firepower. But they don't see the network. They don't see us becoming one. Lieutenant Commander Sejin Kim, one of Heinwoo's most trusted officers, raised a concern. General, what if they discover what we are doing? If they realize we are not as cooperative as we seem? Hyunwoo looked out the window at the alien patrol ships moving slowly across New Busan's sky. Then we had better make sure we are ready before they figure it out. The Council has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years because no species has ever been able to unite against them. Every rebellion has been isolated to one world or one system. And us? Sejin asked. We are not one world or one system, Hyunwoo replied. We are humanity. And for the first time in their history, the Council is about to learn what it means to fight an enemy that truly fights as one. The Council's appetite for human resources had grown like a hungry beast that could never be satisfied. What started as demands for technology and skilled workers had expanded into something much worse. Now they wanted human soldiers to fight in their border wars, and human laborers to work in the most dangerous mining operations in the galaxy. On the colony world of Terra Nova, the morning sky was filled with the dark shapes of Council transport ships. These were not the sleek vessels of the ambassadors, but crude cargo haulers designed to move large numbers of people quickly and cheaply. Jae-hyun Shin stood with the other colonists in the main settlement square, watching as Council troops herded families toward the waiting ships. The alien soldiers were tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and hard shell-like skin. They carried energy weapons that could kill a human instantly. "Attention humans of Terra Nova," announced the alien commander through his translation device. His voice sounded like grinding metal. By order of the Galactic Council, this colony will provide 500 workers for the mining operations in Sector 7. Selection has been made based on your physical capabilities and technical skills. An elderly woman in the crowd began to cry as she realized her teenage grandson was among those selected. The boy looked terrified but tried to appear brave for his grandmother's sake. "Labor conscription is an honor," the commander continued. "Your species will serve the greater good of the galaxy. Transport will begin immediately." Jae-hyun felt his hands clench into fists, but he kept his face calm and expressionless. He had learned over the past months that showing emotion only made things worse for everyone. The Council interpreted any sign of resistance as a threat that needed to be eliminated. He appeared to bow his head in submission like the other colonists, but his eyes found Yuna Oh across the crowd. She was the settlement's communications officer, a young woman with quick eyes and steady hands. They had worked together many times over the past year, and a single look was enough for them to understand each other. The slight nod that passed between them looked like nothing more than two neighbors acknowledging each other's presence. But it meant much more than that. It meant the plan was ready to begin. As the loading of civilians continued, Yuna quietly walked toward the communication center. Her movements were casual, as if she was simply going to perform routine maintenance on the equipment. The council guards paid no attention to her. After months of occupation, they had grown used to seeing humans go about their daily work. 3 hours later, news reached the council fleet command that 3 human settlements on distant worlds had begun open protests against the labor conscriptions. The protests started simultaneously, with crowds of humans gathering in public squares and refusing to comply with council orders. Admiral Kethvar received the reports while standing on the bridge of his flagship. He was a massive creature with thick gray skin and small, intelligent eyes. He had been commanding council fleets for over 200 years and had crushed dozens of rebellions during that time. "Pathetic," he said as he read the reports. 3 small protests on remote worlds. Is this supposed to frighten us? His tactical officer, a thin alien with purple skin, looked nervous. "Admiral, should we send additional forces to deal with the protests?" "Additional forces?" Kethvar laughed, a sound like boulders grinding together. "Send 1 patrol ship to each world. That will be more than enough to handle a few dozen angry humans." The council response was swift and brutal. Within 6 hours, all 3 protests had been crushed. The human protesters were either arrested or scattered, and the council forces suffered no casualties. The alien news networks broadcast images of the failed rebellions across the galaxy as a warning to other species. See how quickly they fold? Admiral Kethvar told his staff officers as they watched the reports. This species has no fight in them. They make noise for a few hours, then run away the moment we show force. They are not warriors. They are barely even animals. The other officers agreed enthusiastically. The humans were clearly too weak and cowardly to pose any real threat to council authority. What the council didn't notice were the small technical problems that occurred during their operations. On the first protest world, 2 council patrol ships experienced navigation errors that caused them to arrive 30 minutes late. On the second world, the main communication array suffered a brief malfunction that delayed the coordination between ground forces and orbital support. On the third world, several council energy weapons misfired during the operation, forcing the troops to use backup systems. Each incident was minor and easily explained. Equipment malfunctioned sometimes, especially in hostile environments. Navigation computers occasionally had glitches. Communication arrays needed regular maintenance. The council technical officers made notes in their reports and scheduled routine repairs, but none of them suspected deliberate sabotage. Back on Terra Nova, Una O stood in the communication center, watching the news reports of the failed protests on her screens. To any observer, she appeared to be monitoring routine communications traffic. But she was actually coordinating a complex network of signals between human colonies across the galaxy. They still think we're just fixing their broken equipment, she said quietly to Jae-hyun when he entered the room to check on the communication systems. Good, Jae-hyun replied, pretending to examine a control panel. Let them think their technology is unreliable. Let them think we are too stupid to understand their advanced systems. The timing was perfect, Una whispered. All 3 protests ended exactly when we needed them to end. The council got their victory, and we got our data. Jae-hyun nodded. The protests had never been intended to succeed. They were tests, designed to measure council response times, study their tactics, and identify weaknesses in their coordination systems. Every navigation error, every communication glitch, every weapon malfunction had been carefully planned and executed. How long before they realize what's really happening? Una asked. Jae-hyun looked out the window at the council ships in orbit above Terra Nova. By the time they figure it out, he said, it will be too late for them to stop us. The war began on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time, but no one declared it. There were no announcements, no ultimatums, no formal challenges sent between governments. Instead, there was only silence. At exactly 0800 hours across 4 to 7 different star systems, human colonies simply stopped communicating. The regular daily reports that council overseers expected to receive never came. Communication arrays that had worked perfectly for months suddenly went quiet. Supply ships waiting for landing permissions received no responses from ground control. On his flagship orbiting the Centauri system, Admiral Kethvar stood in his command center reviewing the morning reports. His thick gray fingers drummed impatiently against the metal console as his communications officer delivered increasingly troubling news. Admiral, we have lost contact with 17 colonies in Sector 12, the officer reported. No response to standard communication protocols. Equipment failures, Kethvar growled. Human technology is unreliable. Send repair teams to fix their systems. Sir, it's not just Sector 12. We're showing communication blackouts in Sectors 4, 7, 9, 15, and 23 as well. That's 4 to 7 colonies total. Kethvar's small eyes narrowed. 4 to 7 simultaneous equipment failures seemed unlikely, but humans were primitive. Their technology broke down frequently. Send the Third Fleet to investigate, he ordered. Find out what these humans have broken this time. But when the Council investigation fleets reached the human colonies, they found something impossible. The settlements were completely empty. Not destroyed, not damaged, just abandoned. Houses stood with doors open and meals half-finished on tables. Factories and power plants were still running, but there were no workers anywhere. Where did they go? Kethvar demanded as he reviewed the reports from his ship captains. Humans cannot just disappear. They do not have the technology for mass transportation. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. Admiral, there are no signs of struggle, no weapon discharge residue, no evidence of forced evacuation. It appears they simply left. Left to go where? Kethvar snapped. These colonies are on isolated worlds. The nearest systems are days away by conventional transport. The answer came 30 minutes later when every light on Kethvar's flagship suddenly went out. The massive warship, nearly 5 kilometers long and carrying a crew of 12,000, was plunged into complete darkness. Emergency power systems failed to activate. Life support continued to function, but all weapons, shields, and communication systems went offline simultaneously. What is happening? Kethvar demanded, his voice echoing in the dark command center. The answer materialized out of empty space around his fleet. Human ships appeared from nowhere, dropping their stealth fields like ghosts becoming solid. But these were not the crude transport vessels and mining ships the Council had seen humans use before. These were sleek warships with advanced weapons and armor that should not have existed. Leading the attack was Captain Timin Bae in his ship the New Soul. He was a young man with steady eyes and quick reflexes who had spent the last year pretending to be a simple cargo pilot while secretly training with humanity's hidden fleet. All ships, begin attack pattern Delta, Timin commanded over the communication system. Remember, they cannot fight what they cannot see. The human ships moved like nothing the Council had ever encountered. They did not form traditional battle lines or follow standard military tactics. Instead, they struck from multiple directions simultaneously, appeared and disappeared using advanced stealth technology, and coordinated their attacks with precision that seemed impossible for such a primitive species. Kethvar watched in horror as his superior firepower meant nothing against enemies who struck from shadows and vanished like ghosts. His flagship carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon, but he could not hit targets he could not see. "Return fire," he shouted. "All ships, open fire." But when his gunners tried to activate the weapon systems, nothing happened. The targeting computers were operational, but the weapons themselves would not respond to commands. "Sir, the weapons are not malfunctioning," his chief engineer reported. "They are being controlled by some kind of external override system." While the space battle raged above, similar scenes were playing out on Council military bases across the galaxy. On the fortress world of Kepler Prime, Soyoung Huang led a team of human guerrilla fighters who had been working as maintenance technicians for the past 8 months. Soyoung was a small woman with quick hands and an expert knowledge of alien technology. She had spent countless hours learning every detail of Council weapons and defense systems while pretending to be nothing more than a helpful repair worker. "Team leaders, report status," she whispered into her communication device as she crouched behind a storage container in the Council army. "Team 3 reporting. All defense turrets are offline. The aliens cannot figure out why their own weapons will not fire." Team 7 reporting. "Shield generators are cycling on and off randomly. The base is completely vulnerable." Team 12 reporting. "We have control of the main computer systems. All Council troop movements are being redirected to empty sectors." Soyoung smiled as she listened to the reports. Every weapon the Council had forced humans to build, every ship they had commissioned, every defense system they had installed was now turning against them as hidden human programming activated throughout their technology. "They wanted us to build their tools," Soyoung radioed to her teams as she watched Council soldiers running in confusion through the base corridors. "Now let's show them what human tools can really do." The war that the Council had never seen coming was not being fought with superior numbers or more powerful weapons. It was being fought with the one thing humanity had that the alien empire had never understood: the ability to turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses, and their enemies' arrogance into defeat. The final battle of the war was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. There were no massive fleets clashing in space, no ground armies marching across planets, no explosions lighting up the darkness between stars. Instead, the decisive moment came in the invisible networks of quantum communications that connected every world, every ship, and every computer system across galactic civilization. Deep beneath the surface of Titan Station, in a bunker that had once been used to store mining equipment, Wu Jin-nam sat surrounded by dozens of holographic displays. His fingers moved across virtual keyboards so quickly they seemed to blur, typing commands and codes at superhuman speed. Wu Jin had once been a simple data entry clerk on Earth, processing shipping manifests and inventory reports. When the Council took control, they had forced him to work in their central data processing facility, thinking he would be useful for handling routine computer tasks. They had no idea they were placing one of humanity's most talented programmers at the heart of their information network. "Status report," Wu Jin called out to his team of 20 human technicians who were working at similar stations around the room. "We have complete access to the Council's military communication network," reported Kyung-hee Park, a young woman who had pretended to be a simple maintenance worker for the past year. "All their fleet movements, all their tactical plans, everything is flowing through systems we control. Financial networks are ours," added Sungjin Lee, who had been forced to work in a council banking facility. We can freeze their accounts, redirect their resources, even pay their own troops to stop fighting. Wu Jin smiled grimly as he watched data streams flowing across his displays. Every human they enslaved became a spy in their system, he said. They thought they were using us. They never realized we were learning everything about them. The cyber assault that Wu Jin and his team launched was not a violent attack. There were no viruses designed to destroy data or programs meant to cause explosions. Instead, it was something far more devastating: complete control over information itself. Within minutes, council commanders across the galaxy found themselves receiving contradictory orders. Fleet admirals were told to retreat from battles they were winning. Ground forces were ordered to abandon strategic positions. Supply ships were redirected to empty sectors of space while military bases ran out of food and fuel. The confusion spread like wildfire through the Council's command structure. Species that had worked together for centuries began to suspect each other of sabotage. The insect-like hegemony accused the reptilian dominion of deliberately interfering with communications. The aquatic collective claimed that the energy-based synthesis was trying to take control of the entire alliance. On the bridge of humanity's flagship, the Unity, Admiral Jiwon Song watched the chaos unfold through intercepted council communications. She was a calm woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Before the war, she had been a cargo ship captain, running supplies between human colonies. Now she commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we have confirmed contact with Earth Command and all outer colony headquarters. All human forces are reporting ready status." "Excellent," Jiwon replied. She activated the quantum communication system that connected her to military commanders across human space. The technology was based on principles the Council had never mastered, allowing instantaneous communication across unlimited distances. On her main display, she could see the faces of Do-Yoon Kang from Earth's military headquarters and Ariam Lim from the Outer Colony Defense Force. Behind them were dozens of other commanders from human worlds scattered throughout the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jiwon said, her voice being transmitted simultaneously to every human military unit in the galaxy, "today we finish what the Council started when they decided to enslave our people." What happened next demonstrated something the galaxy had never seen before. 12 different human worlds, separated by thousands of light-years, moved as one organism. Their actions were perfectly synchronized, their timing flawless, their coordination impossible by any normal military standards. As Council fleets rushed to respond to false emergency calls, human strike teams captured their abandoned bases. As alien commanders tried to re-establish communications, human cyber warfare specialists cut them off from their own networks. As Council politicians attempted to negotiate with individual human colonies, they discovered that humanity spoke with one voice. The Council's surrender came not from military defeat, but from the terrifying realization that they had been fighting an enemy that existed everywhere and nowhere. Every human worker they had enslaved was part of a vast intelligence network. Every piece of technology they had forced humans to build contained hidden capabilities. Every colony they thought they controlled was actually controlling them. The surrender ceremony took place on neutral ground, a small space station in the Vega system. Admiral Kethvar arrived with a small escort, his massive gray form looking somehow smaller than before. His proud demeanor had been replaced by confused exhaustion. Across the negotiation table sat Admiral Jiwon Song, representing not just the human military, but all of humanity itself. Behind her stood representatives from every human world, united in a way that the fractured Council species had never achieved. "How?" Kethvar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How did a primitive species defeat an empire that has ruled for thousands of years?" Jiwon looked at the alien admiral with something that might have been pity. "You made a simple mistake," she said quietly. "You saw workers and slaves. We saw humanity." She gestured to the humans standing behind her. "You thought you were conquering individual colonies, separate groups that could never work together. You never understood that we are not just people who happen to live on different worlds. We are one species, one family, one mind working toward the same goal." Kethvar stared at her, finally beginning to understand what he had truly been fighting. "You will never make that mistake again," Jiwon continued. "And neither will anyone else in this galaxy. The age of human slavery is over. The age of human freedom has begun. The galaxy would never underestimate the human capacity for unity again."